1, 2. Okay. One, two, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sokanyile. My name is Muleboheng Mudisempia. I'm a member of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Home Affairs. I'm sure if you look at our agenda provided for us, you would see that the two chairpersons from Defense and International Relations, which is Mr. Dakota Lehuete and Mr. Supra Mahumapil, are not present with us this morning. Therefore, myself and Ms. Sokanyile will be standing in for them. I thought I should make it clear so that the delegation is not surprised that they are seeing the misters, the gentlemen on the program, but it's actually the ladies that are chairing. We will be co-directing this meeting of ours. I just want to take this opportunity and welcome yourselves, the Swedish delegations. It is a great pleasure to have yourselves visiting us here as the Parliament of South Africa, and particularly the Portfolio Committee on International Relations. That's how we call it, and I know with yourselves it's foreign affairs, but with us it's actually international relations and the Defense Force, the military Defense Force and veterans. You are very much welcome, and we really wish you a great stay in South Africa. I'm hoping that your work and oversight that you'll be doing in our country will really be of a good cause and a great one. We know that we've always had a great relations with yourselves, and hoping that our discussions will really be fruitful, taking into consideration the dynamics and the issues that of recent are coming up. We normally know that during the season of countries going to elections, normally there's a lot of other things that are coming up. You know that in the previous year, I think about 64 countries globally would have conducted their elections, and with that, new leadership comes up, and with that comes with a lot of dynamics. But hoping that ourselves and yourself, we can continue strengthening our relations and be able to have a properly a coordination amongst the countries. I will just take this opportunity and allow, firstly, the members of the South African Parliament to introduce themselves and say which committees they are serving in. As I've indicated, we are two committees, the one of the military and the international relations. I will then allow my co-chair to then continue, and members will have an opportunity to introduce themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session. Good afternoon to everyone present to this meeting today. My name is Thokozile Sokanyile. I'm the whip of Defense Committee, as well as a joint standing committee of Defense. I serve the African National Congress Party, ANC. I'm from that. As you know that in Parliament, we have different parties. So I'm representing the ANC here in Parliament. Thank you very much.
Good morning, sons and daughters of all of Parliament. My name is Mike Hala, a member of the ANC in Parliament.
Afternoon. My name is Windy Alaikis. I'm also a member of Parliament from the African National Congress, serving in Defense and the Joint Standing Committee of Defense and Correctional Services.
Good afternoon to everyone here. I'm Russell Tebekulu, serving Portfolio Committee on Defense. I'm representing, or I've been deployed by Inkatha Freedom Party to Parliament.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Harton. I'm a member of the Democratic Alliance, and I serve on the Defence and Military Veterans Portfolio Committee, as well as on the Joint Standing Committee.
Good afternoon, honourable members, and a very warm welcome to South Africa, to Cape Town. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm a member of the Democratic Alliance as well, the Liberal Centre Party in South Africa, and I serve on the Committee for Foreign Affairs, or International Relations and Cooperation, as it's termed in South Africa.
Good afternoon and a special welcome to the delegation from Sweden. I'm Advocate Shomi Masali. I'm with the Al Jamaa political party. I serve on justice, international relations and sport, arts and culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I will now hand over to Mr. Morgan to make your opening remarks and introduce the members of your delegation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Marisa Mpoya. It's really an honor to be here. Our delegation, we came on Monday morning, and we are going to be in South Africa until Saturday. We spent our first days in Johannesburg, Soweto, and Pretoria, and now yesterday we came to Cape Town, and we're going to be here for the rest of the week. And it's really, really an honor to be here and that you are having us here. And it will be a very interesting discussion, I think, about everything that is going on, but in the world and also in this part of the world. But maybe first we should introduce ourselves, our delegation. We are five members of Parliament from the Swedish Parliament here. My name is Morgan Johansson. I'm Deputy Chair of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, and I'm a Social Democrat.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us. My name is Olle Torell. I'm a Social Democrat like Morgan. We are the leading opposition party and the party of Olof Palme that you mentioned. Thank you for having us.
Honourables, thank you so much for having us. My name is Ann-Sofie Alm and I'm with the Moderate Party, which is a centre-right party, and we also are in the government.
Good day everybody, my name is John Maynell. I'm also a member of the Moderate Party in the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Honourables. My name is Katarina Tolfors, and I serve as an MP on the Foreign Affairs Committee for the Moderate Conservative Party. My background is defense, Saab for many years, so good to be here and meet you.
Good afternoon, Honourables. My name is Christian Fogelström. I'm the Deputy Head of Mission at the Embassy of Sweden here in South Africa, currently chargé d'affaires.
So, and ska du också säga något?
Hello members, my name is Martin Janrud. I'm the Trade and Economical Counselor here at the Embassy of Sweden in South Africa.
Good morning, honourable members. Thank you very much for your warm hospitality. My name is Louis Whaley at the Embassy of Sweden here in Pretoria.
So if I could start by, there are a lot of questions, a lot of issues that you'd like to discuss. First of all, I mean, the relations between Sweden and South Africa go way back, yeah, all the way back to the 60s when Sweden was supporting the anti-apartheid movement in the world and was one of the leading countries to isolate the apartheid regime and to demand for Nelson Mandela's freedom and everything about that. And that has been actually a very big issue in Sweden during the 70s and 80s in politics. We are very proud of that heritage, and we are also very proud of the close relations that we have with South Africa. We feel like we are almost partner countries. We have a special bi-national committee. We have very close connections also, both in not just in politics but also in economy. Being here, we have met with a couple of the Swedish companies that are present here, Ericsson, for instance, Saab, as was mentioned, but also many other countries, H&M, that we are present here, and so on. And we hope to be able to develop that economic cooperation even more so in the coming years, because everybody benefits for economic cooperation and trade. We also want to thank you for inviting us to be part of the G20 cooperation. You are now chairing that cooperation, and Sweden has been invited to be a part of the economic track on that cooperation. We are very thankful for that. But as we all know, there is a lot of things going on, both in the world as a whole, but also, but of course, especially also on this continent. I want to express our condolences for the 14 soldiers that you lost in your mission in DRC. Maybe we can have, I would like to hear from you, how do you see that situation right now, how that is developing. But we also know that in next week there's going to be a meeting between the European Union and South Africa, and given the turbulence that is all over the rest of the world, maybe it's even more important to strengthen the cooperation and connection between Europe and South Africa. We are very interested also to hear if you have any reflections on that. Last, I'd just like to mention before I know our colleagues will have many questions also, but for my sake, we also noted, as you know, there is the big discussion, a big issue in Europe is the war in Ukraine. And we noted that South Africa has invited President Zelensky here and that he has accepted that. As you know, Sweden is a big supporter of Ukraine, and we also want to ask how you estimate that situation now on that issue. So once again, there is a lot of issues to discuss, and as I said, we feel that this is really a country that have a special place in Swedish hearts. So by that introduction, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morgan Johnson, from yourself for that introduction and your opening remarks. Indeed, we were saddened by the passing of our soldiers. As a country that would have suffered for a long time under the apartheid, our mission in the continent as South Africa is to pursue peacekeeping. And as part of our responsibility in the DRC, where our soldiers are currently deployed, is that we are pursuing peacekeeping. I'm sure you are quite aware of the conflict that is currently outraged in that side of the continent. Therefore, our soldiers there, they were not in a war in particular, they are not pursuing any war, but they are indeed trying their best to ensure that the civilians who are mostly affected, children and women who suffer out of these conflicts and the wars, at least are getting some sort of a hope and assistance in the midst of those conflicts. So our soldiers are currently still there. They are deployed even after the incidents that would have happened in South Africa. We will not even take a decision to want to retaliate, because that's what not we are for. We will not perpetuate any conflict or any wars. Ours is to pursue and continue to pursue peace in that side or in that country. I would then want to allow members, taking into consideration that unfortunately we are also having a parliament sitting today. We will not have ample time to engage to a lot of issues with yourselves, hoping that in the near future we can be able to have this kind of a meeting where it is specifically scheduled for interactions with ourselves without us having other commitments, because there's a lot of dynamics that are taking place around the continent in the globe. We've made mention of other issues that are currently faced in the Europe. So indeed, we would want to have lengthy discussions so that we are able to exchange ideas and as legislators be able to see how we forge this cooperation amongst ourselves amidst all the challenges. I would want to allow members of the committee as well, those who would want to make remarks. You would know that we are a multi-party parliament. We have a representation of different parties, more than 2 that are represented here. And I would not want to close out members to make their remarks so that you can at least have an idea of the kind of a committee that we are constituted with here in Parliament. I will then see by show of hands any members who would want to have a bite. You will not be long. I will just give only a minute per member. I will start with Mr. Hala. Yourself, Ms. Okanyilo, you would follow. Yourself, Mr. Douglas. I can't see yourself. Yourself, both of you would want to have a bite? Yes, please. From that, thank you. So we'll have those, you'll be last. You'll be last, Mr. Black. So we'll have 6 members making remarks. Please, I really beg that you stick to the time of 1 minute per person. Then would allow the members from the other side to can then make responses or make inputs on what the members will raise. Thank you. Mr. Hala, you'll go first.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon again. No, Chair, mine is just to confirm and appreciate the role that was played and is still being played by the Swedish people. I must say it house that during our stay in exile as ANC, in our camps in Angola, the food that we used to get was from Sweden, clothing from Sweden. So we still appreciate the role that we have played for the liberation of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Okanyile.
Thank you very much. We want to welcome the delegation from Sweden because of South Africa. The bilateral relations that we have with Sweden have grown into an excellent partnership because as a country, there are many companies that are here in South Africa assisting us as South Africa, creating jobs and also reducing poverty, because most of those people that are working into those companies, they're from the rural areas. So you have made a significant contribution in creating jobs. Hence, we are saying that we want to strengthen those relations, because when you are in that binational commission or group, if you can think about South Africa, you can see that the other countries want to create a chaos in South Africa, and we're not going to allow it. We're not going to allow it, but having partnership with Sweden and other countries, it assists us. For instance, as South Africa, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition is prioritizing the increase to the share of value-added exports from South Africa to Sweden. So we want to make a contribution, but we want those relations whenever you are meeting the European Union in your discussion, we factor in South Africa, because you have seen that at least in South Africa, the companies hence are making sure that our peace-making missions and also the security, it's our priority as a country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Kebekulu.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I have much to say except to say the role Sweden has played in the neighboring countries, not to sort of engage in what is happening in Ukraine, Russia, you know, that role shows that we are a country of peace. That encourages us as well, as we've just seen that the role we are playing as South Africans on our neighboring countries shows that we do not want to see the chaos that is happening around Africa and the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Douglas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for coming, and well, like my other colleagues, I want to thank Sweden as well for its support of the liberation struggle. Many of our people were saved through a lot of the interactions, and a lot of our people were actually benefited and grown in terms of what you have done. Where we at as the official opposition, my name is obviously Honorable Wesley Douglas. I'm part of the official opposition, MK, Kunto Sizwe. Our party president is the former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma. And our position is very clear that we are non-aligned as South Africa, and we will do business with everybody, and we will work with everybody, just as the South African government has done for many, many years. But we do want the way that we trade and work with one another to be re-looked at. For instance, there's a massive trade deficit between South Africa and Sweden, and that trade deficit has to be addressed, because that then goes directly down to the grassroots and affects more extraction of value from you than giving value to us as in the long run. So if we're going to have a fair relationship, we need to look at that, and then we need to look at the companies that are here, Scania, other companies. I can mention a few of them. You know, there's over 60 companies here. We need more local industrialization and localization, making sure that there's black companies that are part of your value chains, making sure that there's black companies that are along the entire value chain of your products and your services, etc. I think more can be done in terms of understanding where we are at as South Africa. I think the issue here that many people are asking about is land expropriation without compensation. But the reality is that our country has to deal with land expropriation because we've had injustice in this country for the last 30 years of democracy and 400 years of colonialism before that, and that has not been addressed. Over 80% of the land belongs to non-Africans in this country. That's literally what it is. They are settlers from Europe that have come here, and they've come here and they're our guests, and we work together with everybody. We love everybody, and yes, now everybody is Africans, but now let's look at how the value of that trade. If you have 80% of 7% or 8% of the population owning 80% of the land, that includes minerals, it includes the mines, it includes our economy, it includes the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So when you are doing trade, you're not doing trade with the 93% that don't own the land. You're doing the trade with that 7 or 8% that own everything. So we need, from an MK point of view, we want to make sure that there's a change in South Africa where there's a naturalization where the land and the minerals and everything belongs to all its people, that our relationship with Sweden, that opportunities for black entrepreneurs from our townships to your markets get opened. Those are things that are important to us. We need foreign direct investment from you and partnerships. Let's look at partnerships with the local black businesses. Let's look at how we can work with Aboriginal and Indigenous people in South Africa. There's no partnership with the Aboriginal and the Indigenous people in South Africa with Sweden. So there's lots of different things that we can do. But from our perspective, South Africa is going through a transformation, and that means an economic transition. It means a geopolitical transition. But we are definitely, as you would have, I'm getting the look, so I'll shut down. But I want to say we are partners. We are not looking at you as an enemy. We're looking at you as a partner and as a friend, and we want to work through the difficult situations, and we want to dialogue on how to best address those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hatim.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you also for the introductory remarks about the relationship, the historical and current relationship. In my little world that I'm operating in, there are 26 major reasons why I value the relationship between Sweden and South Africa. They are called drippins, which is very, very important for us. I will just briefly touch, as requested, on the developing situation in the DRC. Now, both the committees, the Joint Standing Committee as well as the Portfolio Committee on Defence, have spent considerable time on this. And I think, without exception, every one of the committee members, as well as the Minister, has expressed concerns about what's going on there. My party's position, if we just look at the background now, the M23 rebels, supported by Rwanda, has taken firm control of North Kivu, expanded, taking over Bukavu in South Kivu, and now also expanded to the north to Ituri province. Whether they can hold onto this is to be seen, but our situation is basically that we are encircled. We do not have freedom of movement, our troops, and we believe that many of the Malawian and Tanzanian, the other two countries that have joined the SAMI DRC mission with South Africa has actually become dysfunctional, and those that have left without their weapons. My party's position is that we should leave, and the only way out is a negotiated settlement. And I think the big question here is whether we will be allowed to leave with our main battle equipment and with our armament, or will we have to leave it behind? We don't believe that hot extraction or any escalation of the conflict in the North Kivu province will be in our interest. But it's a very dynamic situation and developing. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Smith.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just again wanted to thank the delegation, excuse me, for coming through, and obviously for the continued commitment and the relationship that we've built with Sweden over the years, which is certainly highly beneficial. And I think that in terms of principles, we share a lot as our nations. We share a commitment to values that are enshrined in both our constitutions, to human rights, freedom, democracy. And I think certainly a relationship that's built on values and principles is far stronger and at its core than one that is formed on any other basis. And so I'm very grateful for the relationship that we continue to have in that matter. I also think that, if we look at the state of global affairs, and I'll speak to foreign policy more broadly, Europe and Sweden need Africa. I mean, we need each other now, I think, more than ever in our history. If we look at the United States' administration under Trump, there's a very isolationist approach that is not only, I would say, not only sort of isolationist or kind of domesticated, but almost retaliatory in a way that we've never seen before. And South Africa is grappling with that at the moment. My colleague Emma Powell, for example, couldn't join us today because she's speaking in a debate on US aid at the moment in the House, which is obviously has a major impact on South African society at large, and in many African countries, and certainly much of the developing world. South African foreign policy at the moment is actually in a state of flux. You will recall that you're meeting us at quite an auspicious time. We have just formed for the first time in 70 years a coalition government. And think of it that way. For the last 70 years, South Africa has only been governed by one single party. For maybe 40 years until 1994, that was done under a very dictatorial system of apartheid, which I don't need to explain. But certainly in the democratic dispensation, we've only had one party governance. And so as we are learning the dynamics of national coalition for the first time, foreign policy is now coming into question. And I don't think it's something that we've quite addressed just yet. Where does South Africa's foreign policy lie within the government of national unity? Is it business as usual under the ANC, which it cannot be? And if there are concessions made, what are those, and in which direction does South Africa pivot? And of course, we find ourselves in this environment with the election of Trump, with the AfD, hot on the heels of the Germans in Central Europe, and certainly the power shifts and dynamics are very, very interesting. And therein lie, I think, greater questions as to our role in BRICS, our relationship with traditional Western partners that we've always had. Everyone's grappling with what to do with China at the moment. We need China, obviously, in the global system economically, but we don't share the same values as the Chinese government for that matter. And so I think this is a question that certainly the South African state now needs to grapple with, is where does our foreign policy lie? In which direction are we going? And it makes it difficult for us to answer some of the questions because much of the foreign policy decisions taken thus far have been under a single party and not the current dispensation that we have. So just to give a little bit of context there. But I think just in closing, Chair, it's what we're trying to achieve certainly in South Africa is not very different from a sort of Scandinavian style democracy where we have very strong social security nets. We have the highest unemployment rates in the world. We have to have a social security net that catches individuals, keeps them from falling below the poverty line, while at the same time empowering them in a way that they can access an opportunity and get into employment. And I think that's the most important thing for us to learn, certainly from Scandinavian nations. And then, sorry, Chair, I'm just going to abuse my time a little bit more. I would say that what we can learn from Sweden, and certainly what we need from European nations, is collaboration. On the G20, we really need to look at leveraging international best practice. We've got a major problem with our ports, for example. It's one of the major causes, port and rail infrastructure, one of the major causes of economic decline in South Africa. And if we look at Sweden as a seafaring nation, there's a lot that we can learn, and certainly I think a lot of companies that could come and even potentially bid for concessioning of ports when that hopefully happens in the future. So those are just things I think from the DA side on a foreign policy perspective that we would like thought about and maybe discussed, I think, further down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sally.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Once again, thank you very much to the delegation for being here. And also thank you very much for the significant roles that you've played in our country for a very long time with regard to when we were in apartheid up until now, the investments that you have made in our country to ensure employment that is for us very important. But like Honourable Douglas has correctly noted, we do have a major challenge in South Africa that more often than not, we're seeing assistance being given to certain entities and not to others. South Africa is a very diverse country, as you would know. And in that diversity, we need to embrace everybody, because we do still come out of a situation where the rich has maintained the wealth that they have gotten in apartheid. And we still have that tale of two cities where we have major struggling people that we need to assist in uplifting, empowering. Our unemployment rate in South Africa, some say it's 39%, but I know it's way, way more. And these are the individuals that we really want to assist. I know that there is this situation where Sweden is getting a lot out of South Africa, the companies that you have, excellent. But I do feel that we need to talk about increase of trade from South Africa to Sweden. That is very important so that we can also assist our people. So that's the one thing. The other area of interest for me is tourism. So I have worked in tourism a bit. I still do dabble with tourism. I love, visiting different countries and people visiting our beautiful country of South Africa. So tourism, I note these stats on tourism, and I do feel that more can be done with regard to tourism between the countries, and for more people from Sweden to come and visit and explore this country. So that is of the importance for me, but very importantly is, I note my colleague has indicated about China, etc., not having the same values, etc. That is not our approach, so we don't have the same. So, we believe in very importantly with the G20, etc. coming up, it is very important to build those relations, especially with the geopolitical situation we currently we are all facing. We are all facing a volatile situation around the world, and we need to seriously consider how are we going to work in bringing some form of normalcy in the craziness that we are all facing with the situation in Gaza, the current genocide that's been committed, with regard to the Ukraine-Russia issues, with regard to DRC. These situations is happening all over, and whether we like it or not, it impacts on us all. So with South Africa having soldiers in the DRC to ensure peacekeeping, we need to remember as South Africans, what has this country, particular country in the DRC, what have they done for us? What is our role that we are currently playing? We are playing a peacekeeping role, so what do we say? We're removing our soldiers because, never matter what's going to happen to you. That is not where we as South Africans come from. It's not where we came from, an apartheid situation, where Sweden knows very well how they assisted us with regard to the impact on apartheid with regard to us. I do, however, feel that in the DRC, the soldiers of South Africa, I am concerned about them. I am concerned about the fact, are they truly equipped to deal with these dynamics? Should we not pull all of them out and, put maybe less in to assist? Because right here in South Africa, we also need much assistance. Our crime rate is quite high, but it's also due to the social economic factors that we are facing. So I love for these discussions to happen. Maybe we can learn from Sweden on how to delve into these dynamics that we too as a country are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Tingela.
Thanks, Chairperson. I may have missed the introductory remarks by the delegation of the Swedish members of parliament and the delegation. My name is Muzi Njingila, a representative deployed by Umkhonto Wesizwe Party to the National Assembly. Yes, indeed, we had cordial relations with Sweden during our days of apartheid colonialism, and which is something that we continue to embrace, respect and honor. And these relations ought to be innovative as we move, as we grow as a nation. And politics, with politics dynamism, environments change, balance of forces militarily, politically and economically change. So we would want to understand as well the posture of the Swedish government with the remarks that are made by the US attempting to challenge the sovereignty of the South African nation, because we have no role in how they craft their policies and how they govern their nation. But of course, through your relations and other arrangements that you have with the US, in the unipolarity global arrangement, what then becomes your attitude towards that? But also, of course, we are known as a nation that prefers peace over violence. And our contribution, regardless of our limited resources, in the DRC, as part of the international peace and security, we have to play a role. But your attitude in the MONUSCO and the United Nations Security Council in really making these missions effective, because there are other beneficiaries outside of Africa that enjoys this conflict. If you were to understand the deep history or the understanding of the mineral wealth, the endowments of the DRC is one of the richest countries in Africa. Potentially, these instabilities are sponsored so that people continue to buy the minerals through the off-market and benefiting unduly instead of developing the nation effectively in the African continent, generally in support of the agenda 2063 of the African continent, including the intra-Africa trade, silencing the guns, and all these NDP programs, international development goals. But what I would also want to know, because of course you play in the defense industry, and I remember visiting one of your stalls when we went to the African Aerospace exhibition. You had challenges with the export licenses, and that we had to resolve through our interventions as a committee. But your appetite in participating in the development agenda, because our engagements are centered around industrialization, transformation, and localization. As to in terms of contributing to industries, what from the department, the trade and industries point of view, the transformation thereof, because we've seen your executives are fairly white, and would want to see the patterns of ownership and management really transforming to show that these relations indeed are healthy and they are long-term and they are representative of the environment of South Africa. But through what kind of investment are you also making in making sure that these industries do really give the skills that are required for a nation of ours to really develop and industrialize and continue to manufacture outside of the OEMs, where ownership and, of course, patents and the rights belong to Sweden, but where South Africa at some point can really be a nation that produces itself, and jointly we can be able to service the nation and other countries in the same products. So in terms of the development of industries, what's the level of appetite of Sweden in really participating in such, because we have a program that speaks about industrial development zones and special economic zones. You've been active, and the issue of incentives, you are clearly affected by those incentives as players in these industries, and you're beneficiaries of APDPs. And in term, so in this incentive regime and NPD regime, where do you see the future? Because we can't run away. We need to prepare for a South Africa beyond AGOA, because your sales may have been affected by the recent orders. So moving forward, what then becomes your posture in the industries to say, how do we then maintain and grow the economy so that it continues to develop and benefit our nation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last speaker will be Honorable Plakis.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as a person or inhabitant of the Western Cape, it becomes important that I raise maybe the matter. I think all of my colleagues before me have covered me, but also I want to raise the issue. You've seen the global change balance of force that is moving, with the EU having these measures of export of citrus to the European nation, and the effect that is having specifically on the transformation and black transformation in the Western Cape, because we have upcoming commercial farmers that are dealing in that space. With the AGOA agreement that we have with US under threat, we will really want you as the Swedish nation sitting around the table in the EU to especially deal with that measures that is blocking us from exporting citrus to the European nations in serious big scale, because that can have its own effect on the transformation of black business and black commercial farmers, especially in the Western Cape. I will want you to go home and think about that, what the balance of the global force is changing now. And you've seen the stance that the US is taking on South Africa for certain measures. And I think AGOA will be one of the agreements that can be under threat. But we want you to rethink the sanctions and the measures that we've put in place in the European nations on the issue of exporting our citrus to your areas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Morgan, we can allow you and your members to make any comments or respond to the comments made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to make a few remarks, and then we will leave the floor to my colleagues. And thank you for your very interesting remarks. I can't answer every question, but I think I can start with some of the aspects here. First, of course, we heard about the US aid and what is going on there and how that affects not just South Africa, I mean, countries all over the world. And from one day to another, it just destructs things. And I think in that environment, that's just one thing. I mean, there are other things that the new administration in the US are now doing that is, creates a lot of concerns. And in that political environment, as I mentioned, as I started with, I think maybe it's even more important to see how we can build relations, even stronger relations, between Sweden and South Africa and between Europe and South Africa, in considering what are going on in the world as a whole. And I think it's extremely important, because Europe needs South Africa, and so I think South Africa also needs Europe. And when there is a turbulence like this, these kind of cooperations become even more important to develop. Both politically, we've seen one aspect is that there is a problem, a rising problem now with more and more question marks against the rule-based world order that we set up after the Second World War with our institutions, United Nations and the conventions and everything about that we see that the US is leaving some of them, World Health Organization, for instance, and also undermining others. And I think it is very important for countries like Sweden and South Africa to stick to the principles of a world-based, or regular-based world order. And that goes for every situation and every conflict. It is extremely important that we don't have any double standards, that it's the same kind of rules that can apply for every conflict. We have that in Ukraine now, for instance, when one country is invading another country. That is not acceptable in our opinion. We also have a situation in the Middle East. Same thing about that. Rule-based world order and international law must be upheld everywhere, no matter who breaks it. If it's Israel that breaks that international rule, that international laws, that has to have consequences also, as precisely the same aspect that it has to have consequences when another country violates that kind of rule. So it is important for us, because we know that if this rule-based world order will break down or will be undermined, it is the small and middle-sized countries that will suffer the most. I mean, the great powers of the world will always have means to have their rights, but that is most important for small and middle-sized countries. Second, talking about economy, trade, in our belief, I mean, trade develops both who is selling things, the country who is selling things, and the country who is buying things. We just visited a number of Swedish companies here in Cape Town who are very eager to keep on investing in South Africa. They feel that this is a good investment environment. And they will then be on top of other Swedish companies that are investing. I mentioned Ericsson and Saab, and those and H&M and other companies. And Swedish companies employs 12,000 people in South Africa. Saab, Green Tech, when they produce things in South Africa, 80% of what they are buying to manufacture things here is actually bought by other South African companies. One of the companies that we met yet today are working with building houses in Kaliska and in Lange that we're going to later on. So in that way, economic trade, I think, can benefits for both parties. And if we can keep on developing that, I think it will benefit for all. That was all that I had to say about that for now. But then I have to let in our colleagues yeah. Ola first. Yeah.
So I'll get started and my colleagues will continue. There are many issues to answer, and perhaps we can have another round afterwards. Let me start by saying something about the US and the Swedish position on what's happening in the US. And there are the world is shifting shape. Every morning you turn on your phone, something new has come from the Trump administration. If it's not invading Greenland, it's stopping military support to Ukraine or whatever. So we are, of course, the transatlantic link between Europe and the US is something strategically important and something we need to maintain. And to have a good relationship with the US is important for us. But that doesn't mean that we will bend our backs any direction for the Trump administration. We stand up for our values and the international world order and the rules-based world order, the UN Charter, human rights, international humanitarian law, international conventions. That is what guides us in the positions we take. And we are 8 parties in Parliament, but we agree on this together. We are quite united in our attitude towards the US and what's happening now. But things are I mean, for South Africa, the war in Ukraine and Russia's aggression is something that's happening far away. For us, it's in our backyard. It's very close to us. This is in the middle of Europe. The biggest country in the world attacks the biggest country of Europe. And this is something that we believe that the fight that the Ukrainians are having with Russia is not just a fight for their own freedom and democracy, it's a fight they're taking on our behalf as well for democracy and smaller countries being able to have territorial integrity. And we can appreciate the non-alignment stance that South Africa takes. Sweden was a country that was militarily non-aligned for over 200 years. We haven't been occupied by another nation, we haven't colonized other nations, we haven't fought wars in over 200 years, and we have a tradition of neutrality and trying to find a balanced position. But there are things that you need to align yourself with. And we believe that the UN Charter, human rights, international humanitarian law are things that you need to stand up for. And there is a time now in the world where countries, even though we want to be non-aligned and have a balanced position, you need to align yourself with these core values. And I'm sure South Africa and Sweden will have a good partnership in this sense. I also want to say something about free trade and the concerns about citrus fruits and Western Cape produce entering the European Union. You must know that Sweden we're a small country, we're extremely export dependent, and we are free trade supporters. We believe in free trade and fair trade as well. And we are within the European Union. We have, across party lines, we have always been saying that we need to open up, we need less regulation, we need African countries, for example, or developing countries to have easier access to the European market. And this is something we're fighting for within the European Union. And we look forward to having more imports from South Africa to have a more balanced relationship. But it's not like it's a win or lose game, that export is win and import is loss. I mean, it's a win-win situation. If we trade more, it's better for all of us. And Swedish companies create jobs here. So we're on your side. And Sweden is one of the biggest importers of South African wines. We have a monopoly for alcohol sales in Sweden, and the monopoly is one of the biggest buyers of South African wines in the world, and we'll continue to do that as well.
Dear Honourables, thank you so much for all your insights. It has been a thrill to listen to you all. I would like to thank you so much for being the big peacekeeper of your region here, but also being the front in the front line for the Ukrainian children that are kidnapped by Russia. This is something that is really, really important. As Olle Torell, my colleague here, was saying, that the Ukrainian war is actually an existential war for us, because every centimeters that Russia is bringing into the country of Ukraine is a centimeter closer to our countries. Russia has said that on Putin's elections posters, he said that Russia's border know no limits. That means that he will not stop at Ukraine, and we know that very, very well. So thank you so much for doing for the Ukrainian children. There are almost 20,000 children that are kidnapped by Russia, that are taken from their homes, from their mothers, from their lives, and Russia is really trying to make them un-Ukrainian. They want to make them Russian, and this is something that is it's really horrifying, of course, for the children, but also for the families and for the whole of Ukraine. Russia wants to make Ukraine Russian. by starting with the children, and this is not okay. So thank you so much for being the negotiator in this. As you were saying, honorables, it's hard to have a foreign affairs policy when you have not really formed your government or formed the policy of your government yet. We are only 8 parties in our parliament, and in our foreign affairs committee we have a round table, and that means that all of the seats are equally heavily strong. Because security policy is also foreign policy, and this is something really important. So we totally understand that you cannot be so outspoken yet. We have 3 parties in our government, and we also have one party that is supportive of the government. And of course, there's also some discussions within our government to form the foreign policy. But concerning how we speak with one voice from the parliament always, because it's very important, of course, security-wise. And as Oli was saying, your citrus fruits we are your best friend, I guess, because the free trade is very, very important for Sweden. So in the meeting with the European Union, I think that this is something that we could, you could talk very strongly for it, because we will. And as Ole was saying also, your South African wines are the best. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Johansson, and dear honorables, thank you for having us. I think it's extremely important that countries like Sweden and South Africa now cooperate even closer, because we share a lot of values that has already been said. We believe in the UN Charter, we believe in a rule-based world order, and we believe in multilateralism. Because I'm extremely concerned about what's going on in the world at the moment, and I don't think that neither of the countries want to see a world order where the big superpowers, maybe 2, maybe 3 superpowers, divides the whole world in spheres of interests. So I think it's extremely important that democracies like Sweden and South Africa that shares these values comes together and cooperates even more, because otherwise I think that we will see a development in the world that nobody of us wants to see. So and also when it comes to the UN system, we all want a more just representation, for example, as well in the UN. So we have a lot of things that we can cooperate about. And as my dear colleagues already said, Sweden is the best friend of free trade in the whole European Union. So I promise you that we will keep fighting for opening markets here with South Africa and with other countries in Africa as well, for a just and a trade that can benefit both of us, of course. And since I'm also from Linköping, my hometown, where we produce Gripens, I just want to say that I would like to thank you for the Gripen system, that you're having the Gripen system, and I'm very happy that we now have a new contract of maintenance, and I'm looking forward to further cooperation in defense as well. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you so much, honorables, for your views, and thank you so much for having us here. A lot have been said now from my colleagues, but I also would like to express my appreciation for many years of good cooperations between our countries. And as many here have been said, that it's more important now. And I think that the strongest foundation for peacekeeping is that we can help our countries to have freedom, sustainability in economic growth, that we can work on social economics, and the foundation for the cooperation is already there, I believe. I think it was interesting to hear the tourism. I think that's one part of business that we can absolutely develop. Of course, defense and security, and of course the rule-based order is the foundation for our common values. And I look forward to come back to South Africa, and I want to invite you also to come to Sweden if you have the opportunity. We had our Minister of Finance here last week. She's a friend of mine from my party, and we are from the same town and constituency in Sweden. And I will pick up on a couple of things with her when I come back and make sure that we keep working together in this challenging environment. So thank you.
So thank you very much, members. Just to respond to some of the comments that today came out. On Israel and Palestine, we believe in self-determination and of all people. And the plight of Palestinians is of great concern to us. And I think you would have seen on South Africa having it expressed itself on that matter. And a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine, a coexisting side by side for peace or in pursuit of peace. The case in the ICJ, we hope it will really bring about accountability on the part of Israel and the humanity to Palestine. The genocidal state of Israel must adhere to the ceasefire agreement. And on our relationship or cooperation with China, the two presidents would have elevated the bilateral relations. And China is the largest trading partner to date, having had overtaken the EU in the year 2023, early 2023, early 2024. And the value of our cooperation extends beyond the two countries. In that, it is an after incentives for our partnership in the investments. But we do value the cooperation that we continue to maintain with most of the countries that we have built strong and cooperated relations with, including yourselves. And I want to agree. Indeed, Sweden contributes largely also to the employment of our people. You know that as a South African country, we also have a challenge, or we are faced with a huge challenge of about more than 40% to 45% of unemployment. And largely, I must say, it affects the African, in particular, youth and women. And really, we are in pursuit of making sure that at least we try to find or ensure that our economy grows, so that at the end it can be able to absorb a lot of our people in that space. So in this regard, members, we really appreciate your visit here. We are very delighted to have you, and we hope that indeed your stay in South Africa has been great. I will give our co-chair, the member from the defense, to also say the closing remarks, then we can stand off our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the chair has already thanked you, but also on behalf of these two portfolio committees of the National Assembly, we want to thank you, because our interactions with you, we have raised some of the issues that, as the country, we want Sweden to explore. Ours, as South Africa, our foreign policy is rooted on the principles of multilateralism, friendship, and peace. So we think Sweden as a partner, we cannot run away from that. Will be always nearer to us. And we want you to source South Africa's exports on organic products, particularly food-related products. And also, we know that there are certain measures, especially on the SPS, that have been imposed by EU against the citrus imports. I think my colleagues have raised that. And then we are saying that we want to go with you. South Africa is appealing to work with Sweden as well as EU in ensuring that the measures are implemented in the manner that does not impede South Africa's export, because we want to export to Sweden. Thank you very much for coming. I think we'll strengthen the relations between the two countries, the relations that have been there. Know that South Africa is your friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this exchange that's been very enlightening for us and very interesting. And I hope, I know that this also will be just the beginning of more informal discussions later on. And I think it's, as I said in my opening remarks, I think maybe when things are moving as they are in the world today, it's relations like Sweden and South Africa is more important than ever to keep on building on. And as you've heard from all our colleagues, we are on trade issues and economic issues, we are absolutely on the same line. We are a free trade country. And we hear what you are saying about the trade issues in the European Union, and we will do what we can in order to solve those problems. I'm sure we have the whole Sweden, all parties in the Swedish Parliament is behind that principle. That also goes for the importance of upholding international law and a rule-based world order. Even so, also extremely important right now. So, thank you very much for having us, and let's keep on working together, and let's keep this close relationship that we have between our countries, and to develop that even further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members and colleagues, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.